you. I'm going to try to stay behind here, but no guarantees. Well, good morning. Thank you for having me speak today. I'm excited to talk to you. I would like to start off with a statement, however, before I really start speaking. This is a statement I have often thought, and I want to say it's something that a lot of the Wheelhouse speakers have said to us or have indicated. And I think maybe, if we're truthful with ourselves, some of the people in this room might say that they have thought this statement, or they even said this statement out loud at some point in their life. So here's the statement. I'm not qualified to be here. Right? Someone laughed in the back, right? Right? No, I'm not qualified to be here, right? How many people in this room have ever thought that? Yeah? Okay, hands are going up. Okay. How many people have ever sat down somewhere in a situation and they've thought, I'm not good enough to be here? Like, I don't really know how I got here. Like, I should probably leave, right? Okay? Here's the truth. When I started to think about what to talk to you today regarding leadership, I couldn't help but start to think, I really shouldn't talk to you at all because I'm not a leader. Now, maybe that sounds strange, so let me explain this a little further. I know that I'm a good student. I know that I work hard. I know that I'm dedicated to what I do. But when I think about leadership, I usually think, well, I'm not a president. I'm not an executive board member. I'm not a treasurer, I'm not an advisor, I'm not in upper management, I don't have an office, and I don't have a title. In my mind, when I thought about how to talk to you today, I thought I can't, because I have nothing to prove to you that I'm a leader. I have nothing to prove to you that I'm qualified to speak to you. By my personal definition, you see, I am not a leader. Yet, for some reason, Chad is making me stand up here and talk to you today. So there are either one of two things happening, right? Chad is wrong and I should probably sit down or run away. Or two, my definition of what a leader is wrong. And I need to figure out where I've gone astray with that and why I should be talking to you today. So writing the speech, I thought a lot, and I reflected a lot, and I've come to understand myself as a leader. This process has been long for me to get to this point. And today I'd like to share a little of my experience in the past year of how I've begun to redefine myself as a leader. So let me start with 4 years ago when I came to Grand Valley. 4 years ago when I came to Grand Valley, I had the perfect plan, and I knew exactly where I was going. Some of you are nodding because you're like, yes, I did too, right? I had the perfect plan. I knew that I was going to take all of these classes. I had them all lined up. I'm that person that likes to pick everything. I know where I'm going to be in 4 years on a Friday. I know what's going to happen. I knew that I wanted to go to medical school. I knew I wanted to go to medical school right away. I didn't want to take any time off. I had my top picks of medical schools. I knew the kind of scores and the kind of GPA I needed to get there. I knew how to do it. And so it seems a little bit crazy, but I had planned everything. I started to think a few years into my college career and education, what kind of doctor should I be? Well, I started shadowing and I decided I want to be an emergency medicine doctor. I really like that. The ER is interesting. It's fast-paced. That's what I'm going to do. And so in all of this, I started volunteering. I became a certified nurse's aide. I worked in the evenings. I joined some clubs. I tried to get involved in research. I expanded my horizons as far as I could, all in the name of preparing my resume for medical school. Knowing I wanted to be a doctor and having told a lot of people that I wanted to be a doctor, I started to easily understand who I was going to be as a leader. I knew that after gaining my MD, I would have the ability to walk into a hospital and say, this is what I have done in the last 8-9 years. These are the experiences I've had, and this is how I can prove to you that I can lead you, and I could advise you. And I could walk into a patient's room and I could say, I have the experience and I have the title for you to trust me, to know that I'm advising you. So during my undergrad, when I was pre-med, I easily understood who I was going to be as a leader, and that was as an MD. So I had this solid plan. That was the type of leader I was going to be, and I wasn't going to stray from that. I said, I'm going to be an emergency medicine doctor, and for 3 years, I worked really hard. I threw myself into clubs, I threw myself into activities, I threw myself into my work in school. I worked evenings at a nursing home. I did as much as I could. I worked harder and harder and harder until this year. This year, my plan changed. This year, I started to question, why am I working so hard? Why am I pushing myself? Why am I doing this? I began to think, I'm really tired. I'm really weak. I'm not sure if this is right for me. And one day when I was contemplating all of this, I looked down the path to medical school. This path I had been trying to plan so well. This path that would define me as a leader. And I thought to myself, I can't. I can't anymore. Now, this wasn't the type of can't that could just be turned around with a try-hard attitude, but I tried hard. I kept going for a while. I kept pushing myself. I took the MCAT. I got my score back. I said, well, I don't think that's good enough. So I wanted to do it again. Started studying again. I threw myself into more and more activities. But more and more often, I had these moments where I thought, I just can't. Until the moment came about halfway through last semester that I decided I wasn't going to. I was not going to apply to medical school. I was not going to be a doctor. And I'll tell you right now that in that moment, I felt like the biggest failure in the world. I felt disappointed in myself. I felt like I had given up. The most difficult part of this was realizing that I'm not going to be a leader anymore. Because in my head, and in the past 3 years, I had set a specific definition for myself as who I was as a leader. It was as a doctor. And having missed that goal, I thought I missed it all. This hurt, and it broke my heart. So why am I telling you this, right? Well, this is the part of the story where I'm surely disappointed in myself, of course. So as we all do when humans are disappointed in themselves, we try to make ourselves feel better about it, right? We've been talking a little bit about this in our failure labs. And one of the ways I decided to try to make myself feel better about this was by thinking, well, what are the positives in this situation? I'm not going to be a doctor, but being a doctor is super stressful. So that's cool. I don't have to work so hard anymore, right? Being a doctor and getting there is super, super stressful. You have to be working all the time in school. You have to be involved in all these activities. You don't sleep. You work hard for 8 years to get into a job that then you work harder for the rest of your life. And I thought, well, thank God, I'm not going to do this. I can chill out. Yes, yes. I can chill out, right? I thought, I don't have to work hard anymore. I can let my GPA slip. I don't have to be reliable. I can be that person in the group that doesn't do anything. And now you all hate me, right. Okay. I'm sure this sounds crazy, and I'm sure you are booing me for being that person in the group, but that was where my mind was at. That was where I was at. Now, going into this semester, I kind of had this ideology of I'm not going to do anything. And the funny thing is, it didn't change. I still worked hard. I still, ordered all my books and read all of them and studied really hard. I wanted to do well in classes. I still go to bed late and wake up early. I'm still working all evening. I'm still devoted to things. The things I'm devoted to have changed, but I'm still there. I'm still reliable. I'm not that person in the group that doesn't do anything. I promise. I realized I was still striving for success. I just didn't know what it was anymore. So I realized something, that when I decided not to go to medical school, I thought I had gotten rid of the only way I could be a leader. For the longest time, I had a set definition of myself as a leader, and it was as an MD. I had made myself believe my only talents were in the medical field, and the only way I could show those talents was through a specific job position. I defined my leadership by a title, and in that I made a mistake. I don't have a defined future anymore. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have come to a very important realization, and that's that leadership is not a title, it's an attitude. If there's anything I'd like you to take away from this kind of long-winded story, is that when your life changes course, you have to remember that you have the daily attributes and the daily attitude of a leader. The course your life takes, the job you receive, the pay, the title, the office, the placard on the door, those don't define you as a leader. Leadership is rather about what you bring to the table every day. This was my aha moment this year. I realized that leadership comes not from the letters behind your name, but from the passion and the time that you commit to what you love. Let me clarify as well that the titles and the future job positions and the furthered education, those things we're all striving for, those are really important. They are wonderfully important. But they are accessories to the person that you already are. They are not your defining factors. Okay, so how many people in this room are passionate about something? And how many people in this room can say they're committed to something? Well, those of you with your hands up and everyone else, I can tell you that you're already a leader. Thank you. Any questions?
You kind of, well, at the end there, you said you didn't know exactly where you wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have, but you've also mentioned that you've been applying for jobs. Like what does the immediate future look like for you? And then do you have any notion of long term?
No, that's it. That's a really great question. I'm glad you asked. As we were talking about in our planning meeting for this, I've applied to 47 companies. I've heard from 2 of them, so don't get too excited. I've heard from 2 of them, and I've had 1 job offer, and that really wasn't right for me. So at this point in time, no, I don't have an immediate plan. I'm graduating and then just jumping into the abyss. But I do have a new passion and something I think I'm really excited about now that it took the time this year. I work in a research lab, and once I kind of took my mind off of medical school, I was able to open up and see other things. And in that, I thought maybe a PhD is right for me. Maybe that's where I need to go. But I'm taking some time before I apply to really figure that out. And in the meantime, I'm just looking for jobs that seem right, seem like a good fit for me. So. Go for it.
I think sometimes one of the biggest fears is letting other people down.
Mm-hmm.
If you say for so long that you're going to medical school, and then one day you decide not to go to medical school, and you tell that one person that you're going to medical school, and they got all your medical school bag, here you go, and you're like, scratch that.
Right.
How do you think when you were making the decision, or when you made the decision, what was going through your mind? How do you think that people would have reacted to that?
Well, I can tell you how some people did react, and for the people that were close to me and the people that loved me, they understood it, and it took them a while, but they did understand it. The people that aren't as close to me, they were the ones that were like, yeah, ha. And those people, once you find them, you let them go, and that's a defining factor in your relationships with people when you go through something like that. Another thing that I think is really important that I came to partially through our failure labs was allowing yourself and then asking others to allow you to say that you failed in that. I truly believe that I failed, but so many people, when I told them about my decision, were like, that's not a failure, you're still doing good, you're just shifting gears. And that almost, right? That almost took the agency away from me and the ability to change and move onwards. And I think having been that's a failure to me and let me own it, having owned it, I could do something with it. So I think that was really important in the reaction I got from people. Sometimes they just like, oh, you're just shifting gears. And I just had to eventually say to them, like, let me know that I failed in this, and then we'll shift gears. So. Any other questions?
So, I just want to make sure I wasn't going to remind me, but, so I've known you for 4 years, and I've always known you were a hard worker. From a long time, it's like, Julie is gold. She is part of a wall from afar. And even here you see, like, even the fact that you call this a failure and you're willing to own it shows immense leadership characteristics.
Oh, thank you.
It does. And even too, like, even as you're describing and talking about your story, I think it's a beautiful thing that you're able to embody the emotions of each stage. Like, as you were going through, it was like, man, like, either she really practiced this or she's in the moment as she's saying it. So it really helped. What am I in Toastmasters? But like it just really brings me into like where you're at,
Yeah.
and it allows me to like see my life through you. I don't know.
Well, thank
I
you. No, I mean, I practiced this with a roommate of mine who was a dear friend, and she was like, you can't cry when you tell people you're not going to medical school. I was like, I know, so it's something that, I mean, I am so happy with where I am now, but it doesn't mean that like I didn't feel like that at the time. So go for it.
Do you want to do anything medical related anymore, or is it just
I-
completely shift gears?
No, so I really do. I love medicine, right? So when I like wasn't gonna be a doctor, I'm like, gosh, I'm so sad. Like I love that. So I really found a passion for immunology, and as a PhD programs typically in immunology are in medical schools. And when I found that out, I was like, well, sign me up. Like that sounds great. Like I get to be there, I get to be in that environment, but it's more focused to what I love, and I get to interact directly with the medical field, but it's more on the research basis of things. So I'm really excited to kind of have found that happy medium, and I think it was just, God's gift to me, be like, this is okay. Like this is close to what you wanted, to what you thought you wanted, So.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you very much.